When I pushed the divorce agreement in front of my wife, I clearly noticed that she froze for a moment, but it was only a moment. To make someone who remained calm even in the face of an iceberg collapse pause like that felt like a milestone to me. She picked up the agreement and read through it. 10 minutes later, she looked up and asked if I had thought it through. I nodded and told her I had. Without a hint of emotion, she picked up the pen beside her, signed the papers, and said thank you, but reminded me there was a 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce. During that time, she asked if the child could stay with her. Once the divorce was finalized, she would return him and would never fight me for custody. She slid the agreement back to me and said, "Sure." I took the agreement with a smile, looked seriously at her face for a few seconds, then turned and left. That was the end of everything that ended my marriage, and also my secret love. Rachel Evans and I were introduced through our families. The first time I saw her, I felt like I had hit the jackpot, because she was the senior schoolmate I had secretly admired for 2 years. I never imagined I would meet her on a blind date. The rest happened quickly. I agreed without hesitation, and she didn't object. We got married a year after dating and had a child a year after that. We nicknamed him Henry Carter. The name came from my desire to offset his mother's cold temperament. I didn't want him to inherit it. Ironically, Henry turned out to be full of fire, completely unlike her. Rachel couldn't understand why Henry had such a temper. He didn't resemble either of us, at least not on the surface. But I knew he got it from me. I may seem calm on the outside, but most of the time, I'm just pretending. 3 years into our marriage, Rachel missed New Year's Eve again. I took Henry to watch the fireworks, kissed his little face, and he laughed, saying, "Dad, you're bad." I hugged him tight, tears falling onto the dinosaur hat he wore. I didn't want Henry to leave me either, but I knew that staying with Rachel meant he would live comfortably, go to a good school, and have the best chances, something I couldn't guarantee as a soon-to-be divorced father. On the 16th day of the first lunar month, I handed Rachel the divorce papers. She didn't ask why, she just signed. After receiving the divorce certificate, my loop of secret love was finally closed. I went home, packed my bags, and took Henry with me. Although he had a fiery temper, he was very well behaved. He didn't make a fuss during the journey. He sat quietly in my lap, looking out the train window. I praised him for being both good-looking and obedient. Henry then reached out his small hand to an older woman nearby and said sweetly, "Hello, Grandma." His baby voice melted everyone's hearts. A young woman came over and said, "Hey, I took a video of your little one. Can I post it on my Moments? He's just too adorable." Before I could answer, Henry nodded and said, "Yes." She gave a soft squeal of delight, and I smiled and nodded too. If my son was okay with it, then so was I. I brought Henry to Seattle, planning to enjoy a month of freedom with him as my travel and dining buddy. I held his tiny hand in my palm. It was soft, warm, and irresistibly cute. I took a picture and posted it on WeChat Moments, then set off on our little trip. Barely 3 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Rachel. "Where did you take Henry?" I held Henry in one arm and kissed his forehead. "We're in Seattle, just taking some time to enjoy ourselves," I said. "Don't let him get too wild, be safe, and don't stay out too late. Make sure you're back at the hotel early," she instructed. I hummed in agreement, a bit surprised. When did Rachel start giving parenting advice like this? But I didn't think too much about it. "Do you have friends in Seattle?" she asked. I was caught off guard. He hadn't thought of that. Still, to ease her concern, I casually replied, "Yeah, I've got friends here." She hung up before I could say anything else. What was that about? Still, her question gave me an idea. I posted a message to see if anyone I knew was in Seattle. When I checked the comments under my photo, one stood out, "Senior sister, where are you? Need a dinner companion?" My eyes lit up. I called her immediately. "Sarah, are you really in Seattle?" "Yes, why didn't you tell me you were coming?" "Didn't your wife come too?" "No, she's busy. I brought the kid alone." She laughed. She's always busy, huh? Doesn't seem like she ever has time for you. I almost said, well, someone has to make money for me, but bit my tongue. The truth is, she's the one earning my alimony. The next day, I brought Henry to see Sarah. He had dinner with her and impressed her with how well he used chopsticks. She was so smitten that she asked to be his godmother. Before I could respond, Henry raised his hand and said, okay. Apparently, the kid had decided on his own. That afternoon, Henry was completely absorbed in a pile of model toys Sarah bought him. You're spoiling him, I said. Just because he says he wants them, you buy the whole store. How am I even supposed to take these back? Henry looked at me pitifully, then turned to Sarah and said, Godmother. Without hesitation, she said, don't worry, I'll take care of them. Henry beamed and stuck to her like glue. I was so frustrated I wanted to grind my teeth. This little rascal had completely stolen the show. I took a photo of the two of them and posted it again. Damn, it's official. I'm no longer his favorite. A minute later, Rachel called. The model toys were bought by Sarah Mitchell, she said. Is she seriously stalking my moments? Yeah, so what? She snapped. You're on a trip, not relocating. Why are you buying so many toys? How do you plan to handle this mess? Do you even have a plan? My brain froze. Here we go again. My daily parenting struggles. Be more thoughtful in the future. And don't let Henry sit so close to Sarah Mitchell. What were you thinking? He's your own son, and you let him sit that close to a woman you barely know. What if Sarah Mitchell had bad intentions or some mental illness and something happened to Henry Carter? How would you live with yourself? My heart started racing and my hands trembled slightly. What kind of nonsense was Rachel Evans spouting? How could she even say something like that, cursing her own son? Do you even hear yourself? Are you still human? I snapped back, biting my tongue before finishing the second half of what I really wanted to say, out of consideration for Sarah. Just then, Henry Carter came bounding into my lap and settled down, his small frame warm against me. Dad, look at this Ultraman, he's so cute. Play with me, don't talk on the phone anymore. His words pulled me out of the fog in my mind. That's right. I'm getting a divorce. Why should I sit here and let Rachel Evans twist the truth and try to lecture me like I'm some child? If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up, I said flatly and ended the call. To be honest, when I first married Rachel, I didn't have any feelings for her. But over time, I realized she was an expert in emotional abuse and manipulation. She knew exactly how to make me feel worthless. I was being chipped away without even noticing. She never had anything nice to say. If I didn't do what she expected, she'd immediately go off in a sarcastic tone that left me questioning everything. A friend once told me she had some strange power over me. He was right. I knew I had to get out before I lost myself completely, so I chose to leave. I looked down at my son, happily playing with his Ultraman. Rachel had always been good to Henry, but if emotional punching bag left, would she shift that same cold cruelty onto him? I'd been the primary caregiver for the past few years, staying home to raise him, and honestly, I had no idea if I could do it all on my own. When I first filed for divorce, Rachel sneered, without me, you're nothing. Don't overestimate yourself. You did well in school, sure, but life isn't school. Your little tricks won't work in the real world. If you're serious, bring me the divorce papers. If you're just trying to make a scene, I'll give you a chance to back out and pretend this never happened. She probably didn't expect me to actually hand her the papers 3 days later. And I didn't expect her to agree so easily. But judging by the look on her face that day, maybe she just wanted to see me fail. Godmother, how can you help me send these toys home? I want to take them all, Henry asked, tugging on his curly hair. There are plenty of ways, Sarah replied, smiling. I'll help you pack them up and check them in as luggage, or I'll find someone to drive you home. Worst case, we can ship them. Leave it to me, I'll handle everything. Henry clapped his hands excitedly. Dad, godmother is amazing. She's better than mom. Mom just calls you stupid and never helps you figure things out. I nearly choked on my own saliva. Henry Carter, don't talk nonsense, I coughed out. He pouted. I'm not. That's what mom says. She always tells you to use your brain, that it's just for decoration. My face turned red. How did he repeat it so exactly? Sarah quickly stepped in. He's only 2 years old and he's already expressing himself like this. That's impressive. I nodded, a bit emotional. I always thought Henry was bright, but when we had his IQ tested, it came back as average. Still, there were moments that made me think otherwise, like the time I overheard him reciting Levi's Bring in the Wine while playing with his toys. I thought he might be a prodigy, but the results said otherwise. When I told Rachel, she smugly said that any intelligence he had came from her, and my genes were probably holding him back. Back then, I believed her. I blamed myself, thought I was dragging him down. But later, when I talked to my neighbor Michael Thompson, he blew up. Rachel's got narcissism and probably hypochondria. She's gaslighting you, he said, then spent an hour convincing me I was more than good enough. Thinking about it now, I really missed that guy. For 2 years, he was one of the few people who gave me support and courage. Without him, I might never have had the guts to leave Rachel. I'd been trying so hard to fit into her world, to be the husband and father her family wanted, but that was my biggest mistake. Dad, godmother said she's taking us out tomorrow. Henry said, beaming. I patted his little head. Sarah, don't worry about it. I can take him out myself. He's very well behaved. Henry grinned and hugged my arm. Henry Carter is the best, he said proudly, standing up and hugging me tight. I laughed and hugged him back. You're new in Seattle. Let me show you around first, Sarah said. I've got the whole weekend off, and I'd love to spend it with you both. Henry's eyes lit up. He clapped his tiny hands. Godmother is the best. Mom never plays with me on weekends. She just stays home playing games. Godmother is better. Can't she be my mom instead? I quickly reached over to cover his mouth. Sorry, Sarah. He's just a kiddo, doesn't know what he's saying. She smiled and waved it off. Henry Carter's the smartest child I've ever met. Don't worry, I'll pick you up tomorrow. Get some rest tonight. She stood up. Henry Carter, godmother is going home for now. Sleep well, and I'll take you out to play once you're rested. Henry couldn't speak because I was still covering his mouth, but he nodded vigorously and waved goodbye. After she left, I sat Henry down in front of me. We were eye level on the carpet. Henry Carter, you can't say everything you're thinking out loud, okay? His lips trembled, then he burst into tears. Wah! His sobs hit me hard, and I immediately scooped him into my arms. Mom is mean. I don't like her. Godmother is good. I like godmother, he sniffled. I let out a long sigh and held him tighter. What should I do? If he finds out that his mom and I are divorced and she won't be around anymore, will he fall apart? He eventually drifted off to sleep in my arms, but I stayed awake. One thing was clear: I couldn't bear the thought of handing Henry Carter back to Rachel Evans. Although Henry Carter had material security with her, what if she raised him the wrong way? What if such a good child ended up being shaped into something he wasn't meant to be? But I had to face the reality: I didn't have the ability to earn money like she did. That was my flaw. I couldn't give Henry Carter the best of everything. If I chose to raise him alone, I would have to rely solely on my savings. The next morning when I woke up, Henry Carter was sitting next to me holding my phone. Henry, why are you holding the phone? I asked. He handed it to me and said, Godmother called. I told her Daddy was still sleeping and she should wait until you wake up. I smiled and called Sarah Mitchell back. We agreed to meet downstairs at the hotel in 30 minutes. That day, Henry Carter had put on a headband with little devil horns all by himself. He looked ridiculously adorable. When Sarah picked us up, she showered Henry with praise, and he couldn't stop smiling. After a full day of fun, Henry was soaked in sweat. I brought him back to the hotel, worried he might catch a cold. Just as I opened the door, I froze. Rachel Evans was sitting on the sofa. The backpack in my hand slipped and thudded to the ground. Henry, who had been dozing off on my shoulder, stirred at the sound. He turned and saw his mother. I thought I heard him softly whisper something, but when I looked at his face, he just stared at her in confusion. Maybe it was my imagination. Rachel casually tossed a toy model onto the sofa, and it rolled off onto the carpet. "Do you even understand the consequences if you run into the wrong people?" she said coldly. "It's fine if you don't value yourself, but Henry is innocent. He'll be dragged down by you." I laid Henry down on the bed and, while sending a quick text, whispered, "Henry, if you're sleepy, go back to sleep." He replied with a groggy, "Oh," and dozed off again. I put the phone aside and turned to Rachel. "What are you doing here?" She smirked. "I came to take Henry back." "Clearly, you don't know how to raise a child." "I don't think the kid's wild you are." She laughed, and I laughed too. "Since he was born, I've been the one taking care of him. You never changed a single diaper or fed him once. You dare to tell me I don't know how to raise him? If I can't, how could you?" Her face turned cold. "Where did you learn to talk back like this? Where's the gentleman I married? I married you because you were obedient. Look at what you've become. Must be your friends teaching you this attitude. Thinking about the past 3 years makes me sick." I stared at her. "Rachel, you really disappoint me." She was visibly stunned. I had thrown her favorite phrase back at her. "James Carter, what the hell do you mean, disappointed? What right do you have to use that word on me? What exactly did I do to disappoint you?" I chuckled. "So you know how cutting that word is. You crumble just hearing it once. Have you ever thought about how many times you've said it to me over the past 3 years? I've put up with it until now, thinking that if I just followed your standards and lived by your parents' rules, I could be a good husband and father. But that was stupid. If it weren't for the emotional strength Henry gives me, I'd be nothing more than the spineless fool you were trying to shape me into. You think raising a child made me forget how to function in the outside world? That I'd become useless without you?" That struck a nerve. Her face twisted in rage. "We've already signed the divorce papers. You have no reason to be in my hotel room. Leave." Rachel looked at Henry sleeping peacefully on the bed. "I'm taking him with me," she snapped. I stepped between them. "You promised I'd have him this month." She ignored me and reached out, trying to push past. "I changed my mind. I want to see if this so-called father can enjoy his trip alone with a clear conscience." With that, she lunged and lifted Henry from the bed. The sudden motion woke him, and he began wailing. "Dad! I want Daddy! Ah, I don't want you, I want Daddy!" I tried to pull him back, but I was careful not to hurt her. She rushed toward the door with Henry in her arms, and I grabbed her wrist. "Put him down, you're scaring him." Henry's cries grew louder. I shouted at her and pulled harder, just as she yanked open the door only to find Sarah Mitchell standing there. Relief washed over me. I had texted her earlier, asking her to come back and help, and purposely left the door unlocked. While Rachel stood frozen in shock, Sarah gently took Henry from her. Henry saw her and screamed through his sobs, "Godmother! Help me! Mom is trying to take me away. She's bad. Call the cops. Lock her up." Sarah's expression turned from concern to fury. "Rachel Evans, is this what it means to be a mother to you?" Rachel let out a bitter laugh. "Amazing, James. You found someone to back you up. You've got my son calling another woman mom. Bravo. You always needed someone to rely on. You couldn't do anything on your own. You leaned on me when we were married, and now you're leaning on another woman after the divorce." My patience snapped. I slapped her across the face. "You're out of your mind, Rachel. Are you addicted to humiliating me? 3 years of emotional abuse, wasn't that enough? Now that the divorce is final, can't you just let me go? What did I do in my past life to deserve this kind of torment from you now? She shoved me hard and tried to hit me again. Sarah, still holding Henry, couldn't intervene in time. I closed my eyes, bracing for impact, but then, stop. What are you doing? 2 police officers burst into the room and rushed to restrain Rachel. Everyone in the room froze. Why were the police here? I didn't expect it, but Henry Carter was the first to react. He shouted, "Uncle Police, save me. My mom wants to hit my dad and take me away. I'm still little, I don't want to be taken away." I couldn't tell if he had watched some TV skit he wasn't supposed to, or if this was really how he saw it. The officers, alarmed by what sounded like domestic violence, brought all of us to the police station. They explained that they had come to the hotel for a routine inspection, but while passing by, they heard shouting upstairs and thought something serious had happened. They rushed up and, with their body cameras recording the entire time, caught Rachel Evans hitting me. Henry Carter sat in the lap of a female officer, tears still streaming down his cheeks, accusing his biological mother. It felt more like he was unloading years of blame onto Rachel, saying she beat his father, scolded him constantly, wouldn't let him have friends, trapped him at home, called him stupid, and even claimed she wanted to replace him with another woman. I covered my face, collapsing from secondhand shame. What had I done? Where had he learned all this? I never taught him any of it. Sarah Mitchell stood to the side, watching Henry Carter with something close to awe. "That IQ test center must be wrong," she muttered. I recalled all of Henry's odd remarks and expressions, and a chill ran through me. Was this really my child? Rachel, pale and trembling, finally snapped, "Are you insane, Henry Carter? Shut up, I am your mother. What nonsense are you spouting? Did your father put you up to this?" The female officer gave her a cold glare. "Watch your mouth. He's only 2. You think a 2-year-old can lie like that?" I looked down, feeling a surge of guilt. Thankfully, Henry didn't have to give a formal statement. I wouldn't have known how to handle it. In the end, the police recorded the incident as a domestic violence case. As we left, I caught the faintest glimpse of a smug little smile curling up at the corners of Henry's mouth. I carried Henry back to the hotel. Rachel had previously shown her ID and marriage certificate to the front desk, so they had assumed she was traveling with me and gave her access. Afterward, the staff apologized repeatedly, but I didn't blame them, it wasn't their fault. I packed our things and moved with Henry to a hotel Sarah Mitchell had booked for us. Sitting on the couch in a daze, I held Henry in my arms. He reached up and gently patted my face. I looked down and asked, half joking, half serious, "Are you really Henry Carter?" He blinked, then smiled sweetly. "Yes, I'm Henry Carter, the Henry Carter who came to help his dad." I hugged him tightly and broke down in tears. After a few peaceful days with Henry, I came across a viral video online. It was footage someone had taken on the train, Henry sitting quietly in my lap, behaving like an angel. The comments were overwhelming. People were in love. Why don't they promote having children like this one? I want this kid. Oh my God, he's so calm and well behaved. That baby voice, wow. And his dad is elegant too. Can we get this dad? Or at least give the kid a fan account. I showed the video to Henry, and he laughed uncontrollably. 2 days later, I got a call from a talent agency. They had seen the video and thought Henry and I would be perfect for a parent-child commercial. They'd spent days tracking me down. At first, I wasn't interested. But then Henry looked at me and said, "Dad can raise Henry Carter." That hit me like lightning. Maybe there was a way I could earn money, maybe I really could raise Henry on my own. After what happened at the hotel, there was no way I'd ever feel safe leaving him with Rachel again. So I texted Rachel Evans directly and told her plainly, "I'm divorcing you, and I'm taking Henry with me." She refused. "James Carter, be obedient and come home. No divorce." Aren't the three of us happy? Why are you making a fuss? I reminded her she'd already agreed to the divorce. She snapped, "That's because I thought you were bluffing, trying to threaten me. I figured you'd cool off and come to your senses. Then on the first day, I saw Sarah Mitchell in your Moments feed. She was obviously hitting on you. Don't you know what that means?" I laughed bitterly. "Rachel, you really haven't changed." "I won't agree to the divorce," she said. "The cooling off period isn't over. If I don't consent, you can't divorce me." I took a deep breath. "Rachel, we can't live like this anymore. After everything that's happened, I'm done. I don't even want the past back. I'm exhausted. I won't divorce you. One day, you'll realize how good I was to you. You're naive. You haven't been in the real world. It's brutal out there. You have no skills. Even if we divorce, you'll still have to rely on the money and alimony I give you. Do you really think you can survive, let alone raise Henry Carter?" "That's not your concern," I said. Then the line went dead. I knew then that Rachel had changed her mind, and the divorce would be an uphill battle. So I gritted my teeth and called her father. I told him that if Rachel refused to finalize the divorce, I would take legal action and present evidence of domestic abuse. The police had the footage. If he still cared about their family reputation, he'd talk to her. Otherwise, I would make the whole thing public. Everyone would know his daughter was an abuser. Her father lost it, yelling, "You ungrateful bastard. You're tearing this family apart." But in the end, he caved. He forced Rachel to go through the process. Once the cooling-off period ended, she had no choice but to collect the divorce certificate with me. Just like that, I left behind the woman who had belittled me for years, emotionally manipulated me, and treated me like I was worthless. It wasn't until I took Henry to Seattle that I realized what living actually felt like. Once I shed all the psychological weight, even my body started to heal. The insomnia and headaches were gone. The commercial Henry and I filmed was a hit. Then came more invitations. Agencies, brands, all lining up to work with us. Everyone was blown away by Henry's natural charm. They called him a born star. A genius. I watched him thrive in the studio and couldn't help but laugh. Thank you, Henry Carter, for protecting me in this life. Henry Carter's perspective. My name is Henry Carter, and I'm 20 years old. Just now, my father committed suicide due to long-term depression. I know it was caused by my cold-blooded mother's years of mental abuse and emotional manipulation. I never had a strong bond with her. In fact, I can say I hated her. For 2 decades, I never once heard her praise my father. She enjoyed being served by him, sat on her imaginary throne every day ordering him around like she was royalty, and never learned how to respect anyone. I tried to save my dad, but his mental state was already fragile, nearly pathological. I couldn't pull him out of that pit. And today, I realized I was probably the only thing my father truly cared about. I'm in college now, and I recently found a girlfriend who genuinely loves me. Maybe my dad felt at peace after entrusting me to her because shortly after, he took a handful of sleeping pills and ended his life. I cried for 3 days, praying to God, begging that this was all just a nightmare. I wanted my dad to come back. I sobbed so hard that I fainted. And when I opened my eyes again, I had turned into a baby. The first face I saw was my mother's, decades younger than I remembered. Just my luck. I had been reborn. I pulled my hair hard. It hurt. I cried hysterically. Eventually, she picked me up and carried me outside, handing me to my father. The moment I saw him, I wailed even louder. Given a second chance, could I change my father's fate? Could I protect him from the demon that was my mother? In my past life, my dad spiraled into depression. In this life, I controlled my emotions even at an age where I could barely control my bladder. I made myself the easiest baby to rise, no fussing, no tantrums, early to bed, early to rise, perfectly obedient. Postpartum depression. Not a chance. Then, I took action. I quietly unlocked my dad's phone with my chubby fingers and searched for terms like emotional abuse, domestic violence, PUA, narcissistic control, anything that would trigger related articles and push notifications on every app. I wanted my dad to slowly see the truth. At a year and a half old, I found an opportunity to crawl into the neighbor's yard, leading my father to meet the neighbor Michael Thompson during the search. This neighbor was a no-nonsense, straight-talking man. With his help, my dad would surely realize just how toxic my mom was. Why did I know that? Because Michael Thompson was my girlfriend's father and the baby drooling next to me in the cradle was my future girlfriend. In the past life, my mother never allowed my dad to socialize. She made him stay home with me, cutting off his ties to the outside world. So when he fell into depression, no one came to help. This time, I took it upon myself to become the community cow, wandering around to make more connections for my dad. He thought I just liked to socialize and wasn't afraid of strangers. He had no idea the weight this tiny body was carrying. Sure enough, after a year of effort, my father finally began to realize the extent of my mother's emotional control. Of course, I had a hand in it. I regularly visited my future father-in-law's place and told him about the things my mother said and did, mixing just enough truth to keep it convincing. My future father-in-law sympathized and praised my father every time he saw him, which encouraged him more and more. I was constantly worried about him. When my father finally filed for divorce, I secretly hid nearby and overheard him say he'd take me on a trip for a month. But I knew once the cooling-off period ended, he would return me to my mother. I couldn't let that happen. So during that month, I made it my mission to show him his own worth and help him find a way to earn money. I spent that whole time waving around the terracotta warriors toy my future father-in-law gave me, planting the word Seattle into his mind again and again. Why Seattle? Because I knew someone there loved him. In the last life, there was a woman in her 40s who broke down crying when she learned of his suicide. She had never married. I hoped my dad would meet her again and maybe find true happiness. And it worked. He took me to Seattle. On the train, I saw a girl taking a photo of us. I recognized her, an influencer. So when she asked if she could post my video on WeChat Moments, I said yes right away. If her post went viral, I would go viral, and that meant opportunity. In Seattle, we spent a few fun days with my godmother. I kept reminding my dad just how much better she was than my biological mother. Everything was going according to plan until the cold-blooded woman showed up. I hadn't expected her to come. But even if she did, I had my methods. I painted her as a domestic abuser, and it worked. My dad took advantage of the situation and filed for divorce. He finally broke free. Not long after, I became a minor celebrity. My dad and I began filming commercials together, making real money. Life was good. But if I had one complaint, it was that my godmother was far too subtle in her pursuit. So subtle that my dad couldn't tell she liked him. Oh, and there was one more thing. In my previous life, even though my girlfriend and I were neighbors, my mother never let me play with other kids. As it turned out, my girlfriend and I met again in college, completely unaware at first that our families had once been neighbors. Later, when we figured it out, I looked across at my future father-in-law who had come to Seattle on vacation and the little girl beside him, my future girlfriend, who was giggling while blowing bubbles. In this life, would I be lucky enough to follow the classic script of childhood sweethearts? I played beside her, a feisty, tiger-headed little girl 1 year younger than me, pretending to be amazed by our toys while eavesdropping on my dad chatting with my future father-in-law. Meanwhile, Rachel Evans ended up getting married again, this time due to pressure from her family. Predictably, she tried her old tricks again, emotional manipulation and PUA, but her second husband wasn't having it. From what I heard, he knew Muay Thai, and after enduring a few of her games, he beat her up and sent her to the hospital. He allegedly told her, "I won't divorce you. What if you go out there and mess with some other poor guy? I'd rather take the hits myself." It's honestly kind of satisfying having a walking punching bag at home. I nearly cried laughing when I heard that. Wiping my future girlfriend's runny nose didn't even gross me out anymore. I was too happy. I used to think we'd have no connection after college, but fate had its plans. Even the aunt sitting nearby was so cute that I started wondering if graduating and entering the adult world was really worth it. Was Henry Carter's IQ just a little too high? Maybe. But come on, didn't I tell myself not to go out at night? Didn't I promise to be the world's best husband? Still, after being mentally controlled for more than 20 years in my last life, I think I deserve to break the rules a little this time.